My name's Taimani, and we'll go a little bit more into my whole story later. But essentially, in a nutshell, I'm an activist, I'm an illustrator, I'm an author, and I am a mother. And I create whimsical art that's changing the world. And I just kind of wanted to lean into this theme of identity and strip it down to the very first moment that you enter this world. And what is the very first thing that happens when you're born? You enter the world, you take the first breath, they spank you, and then they identify you. They say this baby, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or however many numbers there are in a social security number. And then they say, this baby is male or female. This baby weighs this many pounds, this many ounces. This baby is a son or daughter to this man and this woman, or however the parental partnership is. And then they say this baby is healthy or this baby is unhealthy. And you are just born. You are seconds old, minutes old by the time they file the paperwork. Seriously, I've had two kids. They hand you the paperwork before they hand you the kid. And you are still have like eyeballs full of jelly, and you were just labeled 7 different times from outside factors. And of course, it doesn't end there. Like, then the training begins, and then you're a good girl if you do this, and you're a bad boy if you do that, or you're not a girl if you do this, and you're not a boy if you do that. And you grow up, and then you go to school, and they put you in a little box, and they shovel that box around for 12 years until you pop out like a toaster strudel, like a happy little shiny tinfoil wrapped adult. Like, that's all they want. This perfect little tinfoil wrapped grown up. And you're born an individual with these amazing, beautiful assets that only you have, but you are labeled from the moment that you take your first breath. And, that's not entirely bad. It teaches us our manners. It teaches us, not to eat with our feet on the table because that's gross. But it's also a problem because at some point you have to like break free from the box. You can't live your entire life in a Pop Tart box. And I can't say this enough, but there's things going on in this world that quite literally need people to think outside of the box. And that box would be the societal constraints and expectations that our entire network are is fed by. And if we've learned anything from 2020, it's that all of our systems have to change because they are not serving anybody except for the 1% who's happily on an island somewhere, I'm sure they're very happy, but down here we have a lot of work to do. And do you know what happens if you don't break free from the box? I'll tell you. So I grew up in a very strict religion. I grew up with a very rare blood disorder, and I was in the hospital, honestly, more times than I can count. I spent the majority of my childhood very sick. I grew up in an abusive household. I had both of my parents were abusive in different ways, to the point where love was definitely held from me, but even something as simple as food. And I also grew up the shortest person in any room. I'm 5 feet tall. And what labels did society give me based off of these experiences? I learned, one, I'm a sinner because I didn't identify with the religion that I grew up in. I learned I'm sick. I learned I am unlovable. I am unworthy. I am not even worthy of life-giving nourishment. And I also learned I am small. And when I'm not small, I am too much. And I am better off hiding myself. And what's the common thread in all of these statements? It would be the phrase, I am. I had all of these outside factors that I couldn't control. I can't make myself not have a genetic blood disorder. I can't make myself go back in time and choose different parents in the womb. Like, that's not how it works. You get the scenario, you get the cards that you come out with. And it's just easier to tell yourself that the experiences that you grew up with are you. It's easy to just sit in the little box because the box is comfy, the box is dark, it's calm. You can just put on your jammies and watch Netflix. It's a nice box. But it also sucks because you're not doing anything with your life. You're golden to sit in bed and cry, and that's easy, but you're not never going to get anywhere else. And sorry, excuse me, still a little froggy. And I think that it's safe to say, though, that none of us got up bright and early to get on this chat on a Friday morning because we wanted everything to be easy. Like, you and me, we're here because we have a voice, because we're not going to take the easy route. And you might call your voice a talent or a gift or just a knack, something you're good at, but I call it a voice. And this is why. When I was a little girl and I was hiding from my abusive father and I was hungry because my mother wouldn't let me eat, and for all intents and purposes, I was alone and no one was listening, I could draw. The paper listened. And when I was in the hospital and barely able to sit up, I still had a pencil in my hand. And when George Floyd was murdered, and I'm sitting on the couch crying, and my child asked me, "Mama, what's wrong?" And I went mute. I don't have the words to tell a 3-year-old that police are murdering people. I still don't have those words. And I don't know how many of you have experienced grief. I think we all have in one way or another, but it really does just snatch the voice right out of your throat. It just snatches it. And in that moment, I was full of grief. I was grieving the future for my children, who are, one of them is white passing, but one of them is not. And they're going to grow up in two very different versions of America. And I was grieving myself. I was grieving my own brown skin. I was slipping further and further into the deep, dark, comfy box because I could just ignore it in my box. But let's go back to those labels that I adopted. I am small. I'm too much. I am better off hiding. I am unworthy. But my kid, he is large and in charge. He is 3 years old and half my height. That's kind of insane. That's not normal. And he is everything and more. He is never enough because you always want more of him. And he is never hiding. He is brave. He is beautiful. And he is worthy of a better world. And if I can't crawl out of my box for myself, I can do it for him. And I didn't have the words for him, but I had the art. And she had never failed me before. So I knew she wouldn't fail my son. And my art spoke for me. And I came to find out that it spoke for many other mothers of color and beyond who didn't have the words either. And so many that our message of allyship was featured on the local news, and then on Good Morning America, and then on Huffington Post, and now is being syndicated into an international all languages children's book. And all of this while we've been creating a gorgeous unified community, a special corner on the internet where we learn about how to be better humans. And we've gotten nearly 1,000 teachers and caregivers gifted with anti-racist learning tools through the World Changers program. And that's really freaking cool. And it genuinely bewilders me to think how many lives could be changed, how many lives could be saved, or at least just bettered because I had the guts to draw a picture and share it. And now, when I think of myself, I say, I am an activist, I'm an entrepreneur, I am an illustrator, I'm an author, I'm a mother, a partner, a friend, I'm a leader. Those are identifiers that I found when I chose to use my voice, and they are labels that I give myself, and I'm truly better for it. And so is the world. And in this fight, in any fight that's going to be truly effective, we need so much more than just the offense and the defense. We need managers, we need referees, we need uniform designers, we need hype men, we need DJs, we need creatives. And creativity is radical. I think people forget that because we think we're just sitting in our jammies and drawing pictures, or we're doing music or writing, and our world is not set up for us. It's not, because they want you to sit in a box, they want you to be a toaster strudel, and they want you to be in a cubicle somewhere, because that's just the grown-up box. And being creative and choosing to say no to that is completely against society. And I just have to say that I applaud you guys for it. I applaud you for showing up here today to dedicate yourself to your creativity, to your creativity. And if you have a talent, if you have a gift, if you have a knack, or just something that you feel like you're okay at, could get better, it's your civic duty to weaponize that for good. If you take your paintbrush, take your guitar, take your ballet slippers, and point it at a purpose, whole tsunamis of change can start. So I implore you to pick something that you're passionate about, pick something that you believe in, and just move. Mobilize your voice, mobilize your art, and move towards change. There are kids out there who need you to sing so that they can have drinking water. And there are sea turtles out there who need you to write so that you can clean up oceans. There's an entire generation of children who need you to draw or paint or tattoo or build or strum or pound on some drums or dance, just so that they can have a world worth living in a few years. And I want you to genuinely look at the way that you identify yourself. On a bad day, it might be, I am, I don't fit in, or I should buck up and get a job. But on a good day is what we need. We need to show up as the people who say, I am amazing, I am creative, I am proud of the things that I create, and I'm an extremely talented blank, whatever, you fill it in. And I am grateful and I am generous. I create blank that is changing the world. And if you guys want to write that in the chat, I'd love to hear what it is that you create that's going to change the world. Because if you show up as this person, as this version of yourself, there is no telling what we can do. And that's it.
Can I get some unmutes, some clapping?
Woo!
Yay! Thank you, Taimani.
Oh, I just opened the chat, and I believe somebody's going to read me questions. So if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm happy you liked it.
We absolutely did. And I know it takes a minute to process stuff like this when we have to type it. So we'll just give folks a moment if they have a question to ask you. I would love for you to start off by telling us how people can see more or support the World Changers Project. And when is this children's book coming out?
Children's book. Tentative date is fall 2022, so it'll be a minute. But we just got contract signed and everything as of a couple days ago. So it's kind of big news. Also, in other news, the um, that book, which is a book about racism by a Black author in a very widely systemic, oppressive um, situation, actually sold for 800% more than the average. So I'm just saying there are big changes happening. um, as
Love to hear that, and congratulations.
Yeah. As far as how you can support the World Changers program, you can go on my website, which is emeraldcreative.org, not .com.org. And and there is a little tab on there that says World Changers, and you can donate directly to sponsor a teacher there. Or I can just put my Venmo in the chat, and whenever I get donations on Venmo, it just goes straight to help a teacher. It costs us about $60 to give a teacher all the tools for their classroom. And yeah, so we just fundraise pretty often. If you follow my Instagram, I'm often doing fundraisers where there's a like an incentive. Like I just did one where I illustrated a bunch of holiday cards for donors. So if you follow the Instagram, donating is sometimes more fun. So yeah. And I'll put my
Amazing.
Venmo in the chat.
Yes, please. And following you on Instagram is so fun. That just makes me feel like I'm 3 years old again, and
I love it.
I wish I'd had resources like this as a kid. So I'm glad you're doing this work now. We've got a question from Jamie who asks, "What did you like to draw as a child?"
What I draw now is pretty much what I drew as a child. My mom actually has like a box of obviously all of my art. And at 4 years old was when I started doing the watercolor with black lining, and I still do it. Yeah.
Awesome. Um, oh, Kyle Peters, it's more of a logistical question. Does artwork purchased in your shop also support the World Changers program?
Yes, every print donates $1 to the World Changers program.
Okay. Leah asked, what are some of your favorite resources to point people toward who are seeking to own their creative activist more?
Yourself. I I can't stress this to you enough. Like I say this to my husband all the time. He's probably annoyed by it because it's been 6 months. But I say, I drew a picture and then my entire world changed. And if you show up for yourself, if you show up to be this person who's an activist who wants to use their art for good, people will find you. I mean, didn't Creative Mornings find me through Instagram? There was no there was no reaching out. Um, and I think my first speech was I was posting stuff about my art, and somebody reached out to me over Instagram and said, "Hey, could you come and speak at an event?" And that's where I met the people from KTK Coin Six. And then, like, I feel like when you just show up and you're doing something that the world needs, everything kind of else just kind of falls into place. And there's also like you can go onto Facebook groups and that are in line with what you are passionate about, and just go there from a place of learning and see what happens. Yeah.
I think that that piece you just said is so important. It's less about, a specific resource sometimes or specific place, and it's more about going there from a place of learning and with an open mind.
Exactly.
Beautiful way to think about it. Uh, let's see. Do we have any more questions in here? Folks, if you have any more questions for Taimani, throw them in here. We were chatting earlier in the chat. I don't know if you saw, and I see that you have a little book emoji next to your name too. So, are there any, aside from your own coming 2022, any amazing books you'd like to recommend?
Um, for children, I love Peaceful Fights for Equal Rights. It's a very sweet book about how kids can use art and their voice and writing and all of that to create change. Um, I definitely read that one to my kid a lot. And then for adults, mm, I love Big Magic. That's just a great one. And You Are a Badass. I resisted picking that book up for a very long time, but I genuinely feel like that book changed my life and my thinking habits really well. So yeah, those would be my thoughts.
Big Magic, You Are a Badass, and for kids, Peaceful Fights for Equal Rights.
Yes, yes, that one by Jen Sincero. Let's see.
All right, Vinny and Catherine are asking if you have any activities or practices to help you pull yourself out of the box when you're not having an inspired day. It's a great question.
Um, Fresh air. I just got a dog almost entirely for this purpose because he forces me to go outside. And sometimes, especially as freelancers, we spend so much time inside in front of a screen, and blue light isn't good for you. I mean, it pays our bills, but it's not good for you. And you just have to get outside into nature sometimes. Also, I do a lot of like yoga or stretching, Pilates, whatever you want to call it. And it helps me to like physically move my body in a way that I wouldn't. And sometimes it helps me think in different ways. Also, just firmly having a commitment to yourself show up. I feel like I am definitely like I'm a hot-headed Aries, and I like run full steam ahead with something, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done with that. And even when I published A's for Ally, when I posted it, I was like, okay, I posted a picture, and I'm gonna go back. Like, I'm gonna mind my own business now. And the world was like, nope, we need more of this. And I had to commit to the world. I had to commit to my children. I had to like physically make commitments to my community to make sure that I didn't fall into that like unmotivated space that I'm so easily um dropping into. Excuse me. So yeah, making like accountability groups. I haven't been in one because I feel like I just bring my accountability through my community and like commitments like this one and making sure that I have those on my schedule regularly. But I know that for a lot of artists who are just starting, accountability groups can be really good because you can link up with people who are also like-minded individuals and just say, hey, this is what I want to do this week, and putting it out into the universe and saying something makes you a lot more likely to do it. Because when we just commit to ourselves, sometimes we don't always show up for ourselves. So